Pakistan hasn't been able to give any evidence of involvement of Culbushan Jadhav in any terror cases, so they've used a military court. They've sentenced him to death. We'll talk about that in greater detail. But for the moment, I quickly want to cut across to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australia's Prime Minister at the Akshardham temple in Delhi. Look at these images. Australia's Prime Minister Turnbull and Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Akshardham temple in Delhi. They've done a darshan. As they take off their shoes, they now will travel to the Swami Narayan Mandir at Akshardham. They've traveled to this place by metro train. There's been a round of selfies on board the train. There are many avenues of cooperation, and that is a big image of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull visiting the Swami Narayan temple at Akshardham. Both countries pushing bilateral trade, regional cooperation, also cooperating in the Pacific Ocean region. Extremely crucial for both countries. They've revived stalled dialogue. Now, Australia's Prime Minister, he has of course indicated that a big move forward may take some time, but the priority does include ensuring that counter-terror cooperation, trade, nuclear energy remain on the agenda. Now the two have agreed to make a fresh push for a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, CECA. Now what Australia's Prime Minister said just a short while back, that they've had a good discussion about CECA, and it's not been as fast as either countries would like it to be, but this is looking at India's rich cultural heritage at the Swami Narayan temple. That's the Akshardham temple. Perhaps the first time that cameras are permitted so deep inside the sanctum sanctorum of the temple.
Well, you know, everyone.
Let's for a moment try and listen into what's happening on ground.
Which one do you like? Because they started in '95, and yours must be nearly as big as them. Yeah.
Speak of. So the images on your television screen also speak of the metro train journey that the two took. And there the Australian Prime Minister took an image, took a selfie with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and within seconds, they posted that selfie online. A prayer together at the Akshardham temple. India Today's Brijesh Pandey joins me for more on the story. Brijesh, amazing images these at the Swami Narayan temple at Akshardham. Tell us more about this, the economic significance of this visit apart, the cultural significance right now.
Well, it's extremely important visit by an Australian Prime Minister to India. And, Gaurav, the interesting part is this whole metro ride and the kind of camaraderie which was exhibiting through the body language of both Prime Minister. It was very clear that they were sharing a great rapport, and from the Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with Prime Minister of Australia boarded the metro train at Mandi House station, and from there they went to Akshardham. There was a great crowd which had gathered, and they were surprised also that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to I beg your pardon, was going to board a metro train, and we saw images of Australian Australian Prime Minister, this time taking a selfie along with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and then posting it on social media site Twitter. So it went from there. They went to Swaminarayan Temple at Akshardham. So it was all in all a great camaraderie which was being witnessed, which we saw body language, which we saw between both Prime Ministers. Gaurav?
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just tweeted a short while back, cementing ties with Australia. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and Narendra Modi hold talks. Now ANI is also reporting that there were chants of Modi that were heard on at the metro station when the two leaders reached Mandi House just a short while back. And just now, let's try and listen in to what's happening. Brijesh, stay with me for a moment. Let's try and listen in to what's happening at the Akshardham temple.
They started in 95. You're nearly as big as them.
Seriously. Not you.
So let's tell you a little more about the Akshardham temple in Delhi. This is the Swami Narayan Akshardham temple. Darshan and Puja, of course, from 9:30 in the morning. There are several exhibitions that are also held here. There is a water show that is held here. There's lots to see here at the Akshardham temple. Now you offer prayers to deities at the Garbhagriha. There are mandapams, there are carved ceilings. And then, of course, is the Narayan Peeth. Now, that's a bronze relief work that you were just seeing there. You also walk with the elephants and experience stories there. And that is precisely what Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Australian Prime Minister are doing. There is a prayer for peace and for fulfillment that is heard at the Abhishek Mandal.
There has never been a tapered scene.
And this is artistically, and that is the Purohit explaining to both Prime Minister Narendra Modi and to the Australian Prime Minister the rich carvings, the cultural heritage. It's artistically mesmerizing, scientifically stunning. That is how Akshardham temple itself describes the temple. It says it's artistically mesmerizing, scientifically stunning, culturally moving and spiritually elevating. The two prime ministers walk around the Akshardham temple. What is also very interesting here is the Sehaj Anand, or a spiritual multimedia water show. The two prime ministers getting a glimpse of the Akshardham temple in Delhi. Akshardham, as the name suggests, means the divine abode of the Almighty. Akshardham temple is a place for devotion, purity and peace. Brijesh, tell us more about how significant this visit is, both for India and for Australia, especially taking the economic cooperation between the two countries forward.
Well, Gaurav, it's an extremely significant trip which is being made by Australian Prime Minister to India. It's a 4-day trip, and economically also it is an extremely essential partnership which we see between India as well as Australia, and this is the reason why the Prime Minister in a departure from a normal.
Yes, in fact, both sides are moving forward on the regional comprehensive economic partnership. And economy is the name of the game as the two countries try to take the relationship forward. As you see in these images, both Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Australian Prime Minister walking through the temple. They've done a parikrama of the temple as they take bilateral relationship forward. The bilateral trade between India and Australia, it's doubled in the past decade. It's about $20 billion at this point of time. But this, the Australian Prime Minister himself has said, is just a fraction of what it actually should be. Now, the Australian Prime Minister, he's on a 3-day visit to India. He will spend time both in Delhi and Mumbai. And they're sitting on the temple steps. With the Swami Narayan image in the backdrop. Spiritual significance. Now, spirituality is the name of the game here. The temple, the exhibitions, and even the gardens. Now, this temple has over 200 idols, 200 murtis representing many of the spiritual stalwarts of the country, not restricted to any one. The spiritual premise of the Akshardham temple is that each soul is potentially divine. If we were to tell you about some of the details, this temple was constructed in 2005. As they sit and chat, this is a perfect photo of Brijesh talking about the culture, talking about the rich civilizational history of India as they attempt to take the relationship forward.
Oh, absolutely, Gaurav. I think, the tone and the tenor of this whole bilateral meet has been set. The way the whole trip had started, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with Australian Prime Minister Turnbull, boarding a metro from Mandigate, riding up to Akshardham, showing great camaraderie between the two of them, clicking selfies, and then reaching at Akshardham temple, and where there's an exhibition of Indian civilization at its grandiose best display. So it is indeed an extremely important step forward. And, of late, it's very clear that India is one of Australia's most important international priorities. And we have seen a significant and dramatic increase in our relationship between India and Australia in the last 1 decade. So this visit is...
As they walk down the steps of the temple, for the benefit of our viewers, the Swami Narayan temple at Akshardham, it was built in 2005, 6th of November 2005, when it opened for darshan. Now, this was created by Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Pramukh, and this 8,000 odd volunteers from across the world helped in making this. This is intricately carved sandstone and marble temple. This has exhibitions on Hinduism, including Bhagwan Swaminarayan's lives and teachings, prayers, compassion, non-violence. Now, as they walk, they're also looking at the open garden. There are several water bodies here, and there is a stepwell-style courtyard that the two were at. There are several exhibitions, and as they take this golf cart around the temple, this is a display of India's rich cultural heritage on display. It's extremely significant. There are several large halls here, 3 large halls. There's education, there's information, and as they say, there is inspiration. There's a combination of art, science, culture, and spirituality. Usually visitors walk in this area, but those who are unable to walk, or in the case of VVIPs like Prime Minister Narendra Modi, there's a golf cart that takes them to various sites along this temple. There is a Neelkant darshan that happens here. Lord Shiv is known as Neelkant. There is also a Sanskriti darshan, a display of India's culture, and this is actually a cultural boat ride which children find very, very fascinating. Now, when you take this boat ride, which perhaps the two prime ministers will, this boat ride sails through thousands of years of ancient Indian history, from the Vedic era till date. It is a 12-minute boat ride. India Today's Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu joins us for more. Kamal, what we are now being told, as the metro train had passed through Mandi House, there were various chants of Modi, Modi, and now at the Akshardham temple, it's India's rich cultural heritage on display.
Well, absolutely. This is about India and Australia. Bonhomie. Remember, 6 pacts have been signed, one including counter-terrorism. But yes, this is going to be also on education and research. But right now, what Malcolm Turnbull is actually looking at is about India's culture, India's history, and obviously being taken by a ride on the golf cart by none other than the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself. So he will see all the grandeur, he will see Akshardham temple. Remember, this is a beautiful area itself. This is open from all sides. This is also a security nightmare as far as all the security people are concerned. But this will also give an insight into India's own culture, the valuable history. So yes, we are taking this particular level one step forward. This even as there has been a comprehensive discussion on bilateral, regional and international issues. And I remember there have been mutual interest and concerns. India has always been concerned about some of the racial issues which has happened in Australia, especially regarding students. There have been issues. But right now what India and Australia would want to do is boost their own ties, especially about the supply of uranium to India.
Yes.
Again, the government is obviously looking at exporting uranium to India, and India is also looking at not just business partnership, but also global partnership between the two giants.
Oh, absolutely. And as we look at these images of the ride that they take together, the Prime Minister emphasizing on India's rich cultural heritage, and this Swaminarayan Akshardham temple, Kamal, it has India's history, and it's a 12-minute ride which talks about what was happening in India during the Vedic era, goes all the way up to the latest times. An eye surgery taking place 1,000 years ago shows how advanced we were thousands of years ago. Kamal.
Well, yes, while the Prime Minister is being a good host, he's also being a brand ambassador of sorts, and obviously that is how he's really personally taking care of the guests, taking him around. And this obviously is a huge complex, as I mentioned to you. This temple is historic. This is obviously an eye-opener for anybody who comes from abroad, but more so for the Prime Minister of Australia, his first visit here. This is obviously also about boosting other ties, but this will obviously give him an insight about how India really is and the significance of religious tourism in a certain sense. So you can see them going all around the complex. You can see some of the photographers running behind, trying to get that particular shot. But yes, we've seen it earlier with the Chinese premier as well, trying to showcase to the world itself about India's own beauty, India's own culture, and here it's about showing India's own temple. So yes, Akshardham temple itself is very grandeur, it's very striking, and obviously the personal tour is being given by Narendra Modi himself to the Prime Minister of Australia, Malcolm Turnbull.
Absolutely. The fact that India, you could have an eye surgery taking place 1,000 years ago. Yoga, India's gift to the world, that's also on display. Then of course, I'm sure many people know that, but for the benefit of our viewers, let me reiterate, chess or shatranj. This was a game that was invented in India, and there are this 12-minute boat ride or this 12-minute journey that many take. This shows what all is there, what all India was very, very famous about. What is also extremely significant is the fact that when we talk about Takshashila and Nalanda, our rich cultural heritage in terms of education, that's also on display here, Kamal, that even thousands of years ago, we had universities of international repute where people would come from far and wide and come and study here at Takshashila.
Well, absolutely. Akshardham itself is a spiritual, cultural campus. This is obviously an insight into Indian culture, spirituality and architecture. So while this obviously is a great tourist attraction, I even remember during any of the historic incidences. We're talking about Akshardham elsewhere also. But yes, this will obviously be an eye-opener. Talking about the values, this is obviously also a huge complex by itself. This is the Swami Narayan Akshardham, as it is called. This obviously is a millennia of traditional Hindu and Indian culture, as I mentioned to you earlier. So itself, this is going to be one ride. And remember, they've already taken that particular metro from Mandi House towards Akshardham. So this is also about how India is connecting. This is also to tourist location. Then again, this huge complex itself, especially of the mandir, or the temple as it is called, it rises to 141 foot. This obviously spans also to 216 foot wide. And obviously, when we're talking about this this architecture, we've been told it's a Maharishi Vastu architecture. It has a blend of architectural styles across India. Now, this obviously also has a sandstone just similar to that of Rajasthan, which is a pink sandstone, and Italian Carba marble. So again, this is going to be something that is going to be exhibited. He's personally having a look at it. This is what actually tourists come and have a look. But remember, even as this golf cart goes to various parts of the temple, the beauty itself is going to be mesmerizing. And what Malcolm will take back home is much more than what a
absolutely. It is fascinating. This is a temple that talks about India's Hindu architecture. According to the Akshardham temple website itself, it is designed with an eye to the ancient and middle-age medieval Indian architectural science, the Shilp Shastra. The Shilp Shastra has guided the temple's design and construction. It has a very distinctive style of carving, and its proportions, according to the temple, it was made without the use of any ferrous metal. It consists of 234 intricately carved pillars and 9 ornate domes. It's fascinating to know that the Akshardham temple, the Swami Narayan Akshardham temple, has 20,000 idols and statues across. It also has a statue which encourages nationalism, patriotism.